Welcome. Thank you for joining us for our Master of Science in Global Logistics webinar for a program overview and some informational application tips today. So quickly, we have muted everyone to reduce background noise. Again, I'm going to pull the chat box up here. So if you do have any questions or if you're not able to hear, please let us know in the chat. I think that we have resolved any issues we were having. Also, if you have any questions, write them in the chat box and we will address them at the end of the webinar. So my name is Shalise Nakayu. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions and Recruitment here at the W.P. Carey School of Business for our Global Logistics program. My job is to support everyone who is interested in the program or working through the application process or preparing for the program to start next fall. Today, we are going to cover why you should choose ASU and W.P. Carey, a brief program overview, some information about the Career Management and Program Operations Support, previously known as our Student Services team, and also the application process. So why should you choose ASU and W.P. Carey? Well, we are #1 in the U.S. for innovation for the 5th year in a row ahead of Stanford and MIT. That means that we're constantly trying to improve not only our programs, but our faculty, our student support, our staff support, and everything that we provide here at W.P. Carey. We're always looking for ways to do things better. We are also the #3 graduate supply chain and logistics program in the country. We have outstanding faculty and a very high-ranked department that you will have access to as a student. We also have the Executive Consortium, which is where we work with local companies and businesses who hire our graduates to see if we are teaching all of the most relevant material. So we constantly are updating the curriculum and working to make sure that you have the most current and up-to-date skills to help you get employed once you graduate. This consortium meets twice a year, and they interact with the faculty and the students. They give feedback on our graduates and what they think of the curriculum, and I think it's something very unique that we provide here. We also believe that business is personal, so you can always schedule a personal appointment with me to talk about the program or about the application process, and I'm here to answer any and all questions that you may have about our program or about how to apply here. We also have the W.P. Carey Logistics Alliance. So Phoenix is a major logistics hub for the Western United States because of the ease of access both to LA and the ports in LA and also to Mexico. We have a lot of national and global firms that have distribution centers or headquarters or offices here. Some of those firms include Amazon, Target, Home Depot, UPS, Costco, and PetSmart. They all have distribution and fulfillment centers here. This has increased demand for professionals in the logistics field, a field that's continually growing, and made it so that there is a need for talent here in Phoenix. So ASU professors Joseph Carter and Maltz created the Alliance as a partnership between the school and these local companies that need logistics professionals. The Alliance has more than 30 members, including all the major companies here. We also have a partnership with Knight-Swift for the Knight-Swift Logistics Lab. They have given us access to data for their companies so that students can work in the lab and have access to computers and work on real-time data and get a feel for what it's like to actually work once they finish the program. So you also get to learn from world-class faculty here. This is our faculty director, Dr. Patricia Swaffer. She is a BS and MS in Industrial Engineering from Clemson, and then she also finished her PhD in Operations Management from Georgia Institute of Technology after working in the field. So she is not only an academic, but she also has industry experience. She has many different research projects going, lots of different areas that she works on. She also is a consultant. She's also very friendly. All of our faculty here have office hours and make themselves very available to students for any questions that they have, not just about the class, but about industry or research projects or things that they're working on. So what is logistics? Hopefully if you're joining us in the webinar today, you have some idea of what logistics is and why you're passionate about it. But in its simplest form, it involves making sure the supply of goods and services flow through the system, closely matching demand. So companies today have an increased need for this, whether they realize they need logistics or not. It influences what they do on a daily basis. So each year we update our curriculum and we look at what's relevant and what's necessary to help students learn what logistics is like in the real world. And one of the ways that we do this is that our students take a trip to the Port of LA over fall break every year. It's an amazing trip. Last year they were able to visit 5 different companies and 2 different port facilities, including one that was fully automated and one that was more of a traditional port. The students have a really, really great experience. I think every single student from the program went this year, and not only are they able to learn about logistics, but they're able to bond and really have a good experience together. One of our ambassadors, Lois, said that she learned a lot from the company visits. She said, "I realized how I could apply most of what I learned in class to real-world operations. This has boosted my confidence in the master's program, and I know that upon my completion, I would have a lot more to offer in the supply chain industry." We also heard from Aussie that the trip was exciting and insightful and brought practicality to theoretical concepts studied in class and answering numerous questions. We heard from Ariana that she loved the port trip. It was fascinating to see the role that logistics plays in our daily lives and spending time bonding with classmates. It was such a great experience. And Valeria says the Port of LA trip has been one of my favorite parts of the program so far. So really, the trip is a great opportunity for you to start applying what you learned in class and see how that works, and then also connect with companies who may be looking to hire students upon graduation. So let's talk a little bit about the program itself. So the program offers you skills to maneuver in complex logistical environments. And how do we do that? Well, it's a full-time program lasting 9 months. You start in August and graduate in May. We use the cohort model, meaning every student is in the same class together at the same time, moving through the program all together, which really gives you a chance to bond and create those friendships and those network connections. It offers you deep expertise through our amazing faculty here, and you'll really gain some unique insight into how logistics is applied in the daily world. So classes are usually Monday through Wednesday, 8 to 5. It is a full-time program. Occasionally, students have part-time student jobs on the side or jobs that have flexible hours, but you will be in class full-time at least 3 days a week, and on those other days, you'll be working on group projects and homework. So what is covered during these 9 months? Well, you can see a brief overview of our curriculum here. So some classes last an entire semester, meaning August to December or January to May. Others are quarter-based, meaning they're about 6 weeks long. And then at the end, you also will have an applied project where you'll work with a group, with a real company on real data, trying to solve a process or create efficiency in a supply chain, something like that. So you really get that hands-on experience as part of the curriculum that we teach here at WP Carey. So you also have access while you're here to our career management and employer relations team. So we have 2 career management centers here. We have the ASU career management and also the WP Carey career management. And you have access to WP Carey's career management for life. So even 5, 10, 15 years down the road, if you need a brush up on your resume or you have a question about accepting a job offer or negotiating a job offer, you can always reach out to the coaches here at WP Carey. Some of the things that are provided to students to take advantage of are help with resume writing, individualized coaching, job search techniques. There's an entire course that takes about a semester on the WP Carey 594 job search strategies. You also have on-campus recruitment, mock interviewing, networking, salary negotiation. All of that is something your coach can help you with, and you can schedule as many appointments with them as you would like. I also listed them on the Port of LA trip because they're a big part of helping make that trip happen and making the connections with the employers out in LA. So the coach is available also on the West Campus. This program is offered on the West Campus instead of the Tempe campus, as that is where most of the distribution centers are located, so you can have easier access to them. So your career coach is out there, and your program operations coach will also be out there at least one day a week typically. Many students choose to live on the Tempe campus and ride the free shuttle to West Campus. And then there are also students who choose to just live on West Campus. It's a bit quieter over there, not so crowded in the gym and the library, so that's something to definitely consider. So some of the things that are covered are some sample job titles here. So some of the jobs you could get upon graduation are supply chain solutions architect, procurement manager, logistics analyst, basically anything that involves logistics, shipping, buying, all of those things are available, consulting. And then some of the employers who've hired our graduates in the past are listed here, including Amazon, which is a big one, Walmart, which I know is a big one. They usually do on-campus recruiting and interviews with our students. So another team that students have access to is our program operations team. They were previously known as our student services team, but they really do much more than just student services, so they've renamed to program operations. They do everything from orientation to registering you for your courses, to managing the student leadership board and event planning and student engagement. They also advise you about how your classes are going, work with your groups if you're having some group conflicts. They do weekly class visits and send out email communications and different email announcements about things that are happening. They also help coordinate all your course materials and everything all the way up until graduation. So they're really a one-stop shop for any questions or anything that you need while you're a student here. They're an amazing support system and very, very friendly, very helpful, and can help you with anything you need here. So many of you are here today wondering, well, if I've decided that I want to attend the program, how do I apply? How do I complete this application process? And part of the reason that we've held this webinar is that there has been a recent update to this process, which we will cover as we go through this. So the application process itself, once all your materials are ready, usually only takes about 20 to 30 minutes. It's quite simple. So you create an online application through the ASU Graduate College, where you enter your personal information, your degree, things like that, and then you upload your resume. So a tip on your resume is it should be achievement-based, so it should include some statistics, maybe how much you improved something or how much you increased revenue. Now, work experience is not required for this program, but you can also use class projects, internships that you've had, clubs that you've had. You know, maybe you increased attendance at a club event or you hosted a brand new event that had never been done before. Those are all things that you'll want to highlight on your resume. And you'll also want to include dates. So if you were in a club for a year or 2 years, you'll want to include the dates so that we know how much experience you have in each of those different areas. The admission committee looks at that both from a standpoint of those who have experience in the area can help benefit them in the classroom, but also those who are really involved at school, involved in the student body. You'll also want to upload during the application process your essay responses. So the essay questions can be downloaded from our website, or I believe also from the application. They're just 2 essay questions. They're each about 500-word responses. And these are basically kind of your interview on paper with the admission committee. It's the one opportunity you get to tell your story and share information with the committee that's not just quantitative in nature. So a few things that our admission committee looks for when they're reviewing these essay responses and really your application altogether is, one, is this the right program for you? Can we help you achieve your career goals? Can we teach you the things you're passionate about? The second thing they look for is, are you a good fit for the program? It's a very rigorous program covering about 18 to 24 months worth of material in a 9-month period with a lot of group work involved. So they're really looking at, are you ready and prepared to contribute to the classroom and be a good group mate and really can give back to the program. And then the third thing they're looking for is evidence that you will be successful in the program. So our one goal is that everyone is able to graduate and find employment. And so part of what they're reviewing in the application when they're looking at these essay responses, but also at the quantitative data like GPA or exam scores, is evidence that you will be able to be successful in the program, since that is our goal. You'll also enter the name and email address of someone to write you a letter of recommendation. I love that this is so easy because you don't have to get the recommendation yourself. You just have to enter the contact information. WP Carey sends out an email and an electronic form for them to fill out, asking some questions like why you're wanting to go to grad school and what your career goals are, and also how you would perform in a rigorous team-based environment, and unique skills and qualities that you bring to the program. So it's always great to ask someone, are you willing and able to write me a strong letter of recommendation? And kind of have that discussion with them, maybe share your resume or your goals with them ahead of time. And then when you're ready to submit the application, the last step is you'll pay an application fee, which is $70 for domestic students and $115 for international students. The increase in price for international students is because that also covers the process and shipping of your I-20 document if you're admitted. So if you're admitted, you don't need to pay additional fees to get that I-20 and start the visa process. So supplemental materials are materials that can typically be submitted after your application has already been submitted. The one exception here is transcripts. There has been a recent change this year to allow for unofficial transcripts, but only if they're uploaded during the application process. If for any reason you don't upload your transcripts, or they are missing information, or they're not clear or legible, then at that point you'd be required to send official transcripts. The unofficial transcripts are sufficient for application review and admission consideration, but for all students who are admitted, you will still have to send official transcripts. So we kind of leave it up to you if you want to upload those during the application process or if you want to send officials in advance. For our international students, English proficiency is required. We have an entire website on all of the different ways that you can meet that requirement beyond just the TOEFL and the IELTS. Students who have attended school in the United States and have graduated or have more than 90 credits with a 3.0 or higher are eligible to have the requirement met. Also, students who have attained their entire college education with the medium of English as teaching. If that's listed on your transcript, or if you can get a letter stating that, you also do not need to do that. So if you have additional questions, please contact me and I can send you the link to that website of all the different ways that you can show proof of English proficiency. And then we do require the GMAT or the GRE for this program. So it is a requirement for all students unless you meet one of the waiver requirements, which is another update that has happened. We'll cover that on the next page. And then you'll have to wait for your letter of recommendation to be submitted into the system from your reference. So one of the big changes that we're excited to announce is that there has been an update to our GMAT waiver process. So who might qualify for a GMAT waiver or to request the waiver? So anyone with a 3.25 cumulative GPA from an AACSB undergraduate supply chain or logistics program. So if your school is AACSB accredited, even if they're not in the United States, and you have that equivalent of a 3.25 GPA, you can request that the GMAT exam requirement be waived. If you have a 3.5 GPA or higher from a STEM degree from a U.S. institution, you also may qualify. And if you're a current member of Beta Gamma Sigma, you may also qualify. This is something that's important to reach out and connect with me about before you submit your application, because these are changing all the time. I've seen this waiver requirement change maybe 2 or 3 times in the past 3 to 4 years. And really we're trying to look at the success of the students and kind of that minimum threshold to show success. So the GMAT or the GRE exam is a way to show your quantitative and verbal abilities. And if you are able to show those in another way, such as meeting one of these criteria, then we want to remove that barrier if possible. Just as a note that I didn't mention before, we accept both the GMAT and the GRE, and we don't have a preference which one. So if you meet one of these qualifications for the GMAT waiver request that I have listed here, what you're going to do is in that optional essay question number 2, you can write additional information, but you also want to state which criteria you meet. For example, maybe you can say, I currently attend ASU in the supply chain management program and I have a 3.3 GPA. That's something that would show that you meet those minimum requirements. And then very important, you need to specifically request that you be considered or reviewed for this waiver. So the admission committee will not consider it for anyone who has not requested it. So that could be something like, you know, I request to be reviewed for the GMAT waiver, I'm requesting the GMAT waiver, I request the admission committee consider me for the GMAT waiver. It's very, very, very important to note that this is a request, so the admission committee will look at your letter of recommendation, your essays, your individual course grades, all of those in reference to the GMAT waiver request, and it is a request, and so they will usually notify students via email if their request has been approved and they can proceed with the review of their application, or if there's some additional information they want from them to show those quantitative or verbal abilities. Could be an interview, could be taking the GMAT, could be something else. But that notification will come from the admission committee. Also, they only consider the waiver when all application materials have been received. So at this time, you cannot be reviewed for the waiver until we receive, for example, your transcripts or your letter of recommendation, all of those supplemental materials that we discussed earlier. If you do have questions about this or about preparing a competitive application, that is why I'm here. I can schedule one-on-one appointments or chat with you via email to discuss your unique and individual situation, because everyone has a different experience and a different background, and my job is to coach you through the process to be able to submit a competitive application. So that's something you would want to contact me about, and my information will be at the end of the webinar. So real quick here, we also do not have minimum requirements for this program. We do post our class average on our website, and that's updated every year as we admit a new group of students. So for this year, our average GMAT score is 564, and our average GRE is 303. That does not mean that you can't be admitted if you don't get a 564 or a 303. It just means that is the average of all of the students who were admitted in the past year. Our average grade point average is a 3.53, work experience 1.2 years. Work experience is not required, but we do have students with work experience in the program, and the average TOEFL score is 91. So I always tell students that if you are a little bit lower in one area, maybe you have a bit lower grade point average, you can try and submit a higher GMAT or GRE score to help offset that, or maybe if you have a lower grade point average but you have some work experience, that can help to offset that. Again, that's something that an individualized coaching session or advising session with me can help you figure out how to work with that in your application and present the strongest application possible to the committee. So a lot of people have questions also about the cost of the program. So I've listed the cost here. This is for tuition and fees, does not include living expenses. Living expenses can vary depending on if you need transportation, if you have a car or a bike, or you need parking, where you choose to live, all of those kinds of things. We do have a document that outlines all of the estimated expenses as well as financial aid resources. So students are automatically considered for WP Carey scholarships. Those are merit-based, so they're looking at test scores, GPA, work experience, all of those things. They're typically smaller amounts, maybe $3,000 to $5,000, and that helps students to kind of offset the cost of books and things. Many students do take out loans or have outside scholarships or employer funding, different things like that. We do have a financial services team just for our WP Carey graduate students. So if you have questions about how to cover the cost of the program, definitely let me know and I can connect you with them, and they can talk to you about what resources are available. So why should you spend all this time and all of this money to attend graduate school, besides the fact that some people just love to learn, right? So the goal is to get a return on your investment. Part of the reason we offer a 9-month program instead of a longer program is because you spend less semesters in school, so you're paying less tuition, and you're able to get back out in the job market quicker and earning that new salary and that return on investment. It's estimated that there will be a 26% increase in logistics jobs by 2020. That's just next year, so the demand is increasing exponentially. There will be a 29% increase need for freight agents by the end of the decade, so that's also next year. And then for some of the roles here, depending on what your background is and what roles you're targeting, you could earn $70,000 or more. Salary negotiation is one of the pieces that our career management team helps students with to help understand if they're being offered a fair salary, if signing bonuses are available, if they can negotiate for either salary or other perks that they're hoping for. So those are all things that we can help you with here at WP Carey. So the other question that a lot of you may have are deadlines. So what are the upcoming deadlines? So we've already passed a few deadlines, and these deadlines are important to note, but also something that we can work on with you one-on-one. So February 4th is our International Student Deadline. It does not mean that we will not review applications for international students after that deadline, or that we will not admit students. We set that deadline so students have time to complete the I-20 and visa process and be able to arrive on time for orientation as that is required. Our April 4th priority consideration deadline specifically refers to scholarship money. That's usually the date by which we award the last of our scholarship money, and that June 30th deadline is the final deadline. As long as there are still seats available in the class and qualified candidates, we will continue to admit students. We typically can review a student's application within about 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes less. And so regardless of what deadline you are applying for, you will receive a decision usually within 2 to 3 weeks, and then the scholarship committee will meet once per round. So if you do have any questions, feel free to share them in the chat box at this time. And then if you are interested in asking me questions one-on-one about your individual and unique situation, or scheduling a time to chat with me about your application, my contact information, my email and phone number is here. I am definitely here and ready and welcome any questions, willing to help anyone. So please let me know if there's anything that you need. I'm going to give just a few minutes here so people have the opportunity to chat any questions they have in our chat box here, and then we will answer those at the end of the webinar. All right, we had a great question here about jobs and part-time jobs through the program. So I mentioned that the classes are 3 days a week, so that may leave you time to work. So students who are here on a visa, or otherwise known as international students, are eligible to apply for student employment here at ASU on any of the different campuses. Those student jobs are usually pretty flexible, and they max out at about 20 hours a week is what you're allowed to work. They're an hourly wage, and we have a portal where you can see all of the different job postings, and it is an application process. So you would submit an application and your resume online, and then you may be called for an interview or asked to interview in person. And if you meet what that department is looking for, then they'll usually offer you employment, and you can work up to 20 hours a week. And that can be flexible based off, finals or holiday breaks, things like that. So there are all of those jobs posted online. I can send that link to anyone if you want to email me afterwards and ask about where to access those. We also have a scholarship portal for ASU students to look for outside scholarships. So a lot of those a lot of those resources are available on asu.edu, and you can look in there. There's a little search bar, kind of like a Google search bar, to look for anything that you have. As far as internships go, so there aren't any internships during the program because it is quite short, but you do have the applied project. So you're still getting that hands-on experience. You're still working in the Night Swift Transportation Lab. But our goal, rather than getting you an internship, is to get you out and get you a full-time job as soon as possible. So the abbreviated nature of the program allows you to do that applied project and then look for a job right away once you graduate. One thing also that students usually ask is about on-campus recruiting. So I love the Global Logistics program because I think one of the best career fairs that we have here at ASU is our SCMA, or Supply Chain Management Association Career Fair. It's hosted once in the fall and once in the spring, and you have to be a paid member of the club to attend. They give you a cute little bracelet when you go in that shows that you're a member and you're allowed to attend. There are usually at least 50 to 60 companies who attend, so you can go around to the different tables, share a little bit about yourself, learn about the company, and then they'll usually do several days of on-campus interviewing after that. You can also apply for jobs at any time and work with the career coach on those. We do have Skype interview rooms, so if you need to do a video interview with someone in another country or in another part of the U.S., you can use our official interview rooms here to complete those, and those are available to students. All right, another great question is about West Campus. So this is our only program that's offered at West Campus. The rest are offered in the building you see pictured here, McCord Hall on Tempe campus. So West Campus, depending on traffic, is about 45 minutes to an hour away from the Tempe campus. We do have a free shuttle that goes back and forth between all of our campuses, including West Campus. So students are able to get on that shuttle usually about once or twice an hour and ride back and forth to the campuses. So Tempe campus is quite large. I believe last year we had about 80,000 students on campus. Right in the background of this picture, you can see our fitness center. A lot of events happen here, a lot of sporting events. Some students love to be involved in that and just want to ride that shuttle to West Campus. But some students can find our campus a bit overwhelming. You know, maybe they're not used to being around that many people, or they want to be closer to their classes. So the reason for having this program on West Campus, as I mentioned before, is a lot of distribution centers are located in the West Valley, in the Glendale area, and that is for kind of ease of transportation. They're really close to the interstates there. So we do host that program out there so that you can do class visits to the different sites. Sometimes you'll have guest speakers. They do have a fitness center, a library, and a lot of the same resources out on West Campus, but they're a lot less crowded. It's a lot easier to get in. Our students usually are about 50-50 who decides to live on Tempe campus or on West Campus. And if you do live at West Campus, you can always take the shuttle out here for a football game or a club or a sporting event. Another reason why we have those classes only 3 days a week instead of 4 or 5 days a week are so that you can be involved in some of those other things. So they are close to a lot of potential companies that do have distribution centers out there, including Night Swift, including Walmart and Amazon. They all have distribution centers out there, so that is part of the reason for that being located there. Additionally, as I mentioned before, your career coach, Ria, is located on the West Campus, and she is very, very helpful in helping you make connections or do tours. We have another question about, being involved on campus and clubs on campus. So one of the clubs that you can join if you desire is the SCMA, or Supply Chain Management Association, as I mentioned before. They're a great organization. So they do site tours with different companies, probably once or twice a month. They have different meetings. They'll also host information sessions. You'll also have access to handshakes, so if there are any companies that are coming to do information sessions or on-campus recruiting, those will be posted in Handshake or in WPC Connect, which is the career service portal for our WP Carey graduate students. So you definitely will have access to lots of different companies while you are here on campus, and also lots of different organizations. If you're interested in anything here, chances are there's already a club, or you can make a club for anything that you have an interest in. But the most common one I see is that Supply Chain Management Association. You also have the opportunity to apply for the leadership board or to be a student ambassador. So any of you that are here today, we do have some student ambassadors who are willing to talk to you about the student experience, or what it's like to move to Arizona and to join the program, and what it's like to be involved on campus. So if any of you are interested, you can find their contact information on our website under Student Experience, or you can also reach out to me and I can connect you with them. And anyone who's interested in helping the future prospective students, you can apply for that as well.